Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another video episode on GunLab. I'm Ian, and today I'm here with Scott from Hydroprint Technologies down in Florida. And we're taking a look at a cool technology that Scott has for finishing firearms and accessories and really pretty much anything.
Anything, not just firearms. We do all kinds of stuff. Car parts, motorcycle parts, basically you name it.
So we did a handful of guns that we built ourselves just to play with and have. And what we typically use, this was a couple of years ago, we used one of the the spray-on paint finishes that you find that are fairly popular.
Oh yes.
And frankly, I'm not really impressed with any of those. We really didn't have good luck. I went with something just like a flat black. Had some trouble getting it on. It didn't look all that clean, and it wore off extremely quickly.
Okay.
When I had an AK with the safety lever, it took one run of that safety lever, and I had a big old scar right down the middle of my finish.
That'll happen. A lot of the popular spray-on finishes don't really live up to their names, and they tend to lack the durability. That's one thing where we do excel, is durability.
Okay.
You mentioned the AK safety lever. That's a great example. I wish I had the gun here. I have a Saiga 12 that I take out to the gun shows and has been my demonstrator for a couple of years now. I've probably run that safety lever up and down 10,000 times. And there's the faintest little mark there because I was impatient and put it together a day before it cured because I wanted to take it to a shoot the next day. So yeah, it's tough stuff. As we were talking about that M16 that we were talking about earlier, it's got a little over 12,000 rounds through it right now. And the only wear you're really going to find, you'll find it on the brass deflector, of course, and a couple of the high points because we abuse it.
Right. Well, and any gun's going to have some nice finish wear on it after 12,000 rounds, no matter how you finish it.
Yep.
Before we go too much farther, we should tell people what this actually is.
It's called hydrographic printing. Sometimes it's known as cubic printing or water transfer printing. Basically, it's a method that allows us to print a pattern onto a 3D surface and wrap it all the way around. Here's a very good example. You can see this magazine, the pattern is printed and wrapped all the way around. It's not stenciled on, it is actually a printed finish. It allows us to get extremely fine details. There's no way you could do something like that with a sprayed on finish.
Yes, definitely not on a three-dimensional surface. And you've got all sorts of cool flashy colors.
We do. We do a little bit of everything. We do the traditional. We've got about 100 or so different wood grains and burl woods, real nice, that we do. We can do, your standard black and blue and gunmetal gray and things like that. But we like to take things a little bit further and kind of, I don't know, black is boring.
And because this does start as a full printed sheet, it's no more work to do a really cool pattern like this than it would be to do just a flat color.
Correct. And actually that one of the questions we get a lot is, if I just want something flat black versus printed, is the charge the same? And the answer is absolutely yes, because the same amount of labor goes into it. Like any other paint job, it's the prep work.
Right.
That's where the bulk of your labor is.
Okay. And this isn't, so you've got the printed sheet, and you dip it in, and we'll do that.
We'll do that in a little bit, yeah.
Take a look.
Do you want me to give you the short version?
Well, I was going to say, once you have that, there is another coat on top of it.
Absolutely, yes. It gets top coated with a 2-part catalyzed aliphatic urethane that, as my buddy Dave likes to put, is tougher than your mother-in-law.
So that's basically an automotive grade top coat.
Yeah, it's an enhanced automotive grade urethane top coat.
Okay. So yeah, I found out about this, and I thought it's a really cool option, something that I don't have the skill to do, or the equipment to do a neat pattern like that, but that seems like a much better option to me than what I've done before.
How many times have you been out, I know you shoot some 3-gun matches, how many times have you been out at a 3-gun match and you look over at the rack of rifles there and wonder, which one is mine? Because they all look the same.
Yeah, I'm not going to wonder if that one's mine.
Exactly.
That's going to be pretty obvious, and it looks cool. So now, we should say you have flashy reds and purples and yellows, but you also do.
We also do the subdued. We've got the traditional camos. We've got some tactical camos. This is our Reaper Woods. It's actually, if you look real close, there's some skulls hidden in there, in and amongst the camos.
And this is really cool too.
Yep, that's a very nice wood grain. In fact, that's one of my favorite wood grains. But we've got basically all of your favorite camos. We've got multicam. We've got all of the digital camos. We've got ATACs. We've got the Vista.
So here's one other thing that I noticed, well, just looking around, it's just an M16 stock. but there's this stippling on the back.
Mm-hmm.
And your finish goes all the way down to the base.
Absolutely.
And I guess it's the hydrostatic pressure sucks it down.
That
onto
is
the
exactly
surface.
right. Yes, the water pressure does force it into all the nooks and crannies and crevices, and it's also what allows us to do things like a compound curve and to be able to print all the way around that.
Right.
You know, we can do things like a helmet or something like that.
If I tried to spray this, it'd look like crap.
It'll never happen. You'll never mask that cleanly.
Right. Well, cool. Why don't we go ahead and take a look at actually dipping something?
Sounds great.
All right.
As the part comes in, depending on what it is, if it's a gun part or a motorcycle part or basically anything, it all goes through the same process. The part first has to be prepped, and like any good paint job, you know, it's all about the prep. That's where the majority of your labor comes in. So it gets either sanded or chemically deglossed, depending on which is appropriate for the particular piece, and it gets prepped in and then sprayed with a high quality base paint. This particular one happens to be going white, just like this piece. We're going to turn this white.
Okay.
And we'll see some of this dipped a little bit later today.
Okay, and this is just the base paint.
That's just the base paint, yep. Just sprayed that last night so that we'd have something to dip today. That's an old, raggedy old M16A1 stock
Right.
that I had kicking around.
And then put in a hook and a hanging mechanism.
Yep.
So you don't have anything touching
So,
it.
yep, exactly.
Now,
And we do, you asked about masking earlier.
Yeah.
We do selective masking. A lot of times we will have, you know, for either tolerance issues or just to make it neater. You know, nobody wants to see overspray on the back of their grips or the inside of their
Right.
rail or things like that. So we will mask off appropriate parts. Things like rail markings, we can mask those off and leave the rail markings if you want, for example. We get that request a lot.
okay, and certainly things like the inside of the board.
Oh,
You don't want
absolutely,
to finish.
absolutely. We plug pinholes, plug bores, things like that, sure.
And
Once it's painted, we go through the dipping process, and we'll talk about that in just a little while here. And then when it comes out, it gets rinsed off and clear coated with that urethane that we were talking about already.
cool. And looks like this.
And it looks like that.
Skulls and everything.
That's our new Reaper Z pattern. It's actually so new it's not even on our website yet. I just got it a couple days ago.
That's a really detailed
It
pattern,
is.
too.
It is. It's going to be the next big thing. And something interesting about this, in a lot of our patterns, we can do variations on the theme. What I mean by that is I can put different base colors under that. That's a lime green base color under that, but that could just as easily have been pink or blue or red zombie pattern. Just, you know.
Cool.
There are certain patterns that do have specified base colors, and we stick to those because, you know, that's part of the licensing agreement for,
Okay.
like, for example, if we have ATAX or multicam,
Right.
it has a very specific base color that it needs to have for that pattern.
Right.
But, you know, we like to play a little bit too. So.
Absolutely. All right, well, let's play some.
All right. All right, what we've got here is our hydrographic film. It's actually printed on PVA. It's the same stuff they make Elmer's glue out of. And when we float that on the water, the PVA will dissolve in the water. We'll spray a solvent that will re-wet the ink on it, and that'll allow it to also bond into our base paint. So
Okay.
our film comes on a roll. It's pre-printed. We've got over 350 different patterns available. We roll it out here, and we have a little problem with humidity here in Florida, so we actually have to do a little finagling and slice the edges of our film. What that's going to do is keep it from, you see how it's rolling up here at
Yeah.
the end? When I lay it out on the water, it's going to want to do that as well. So we have to slice it and control that rolling motion.
You have a little corrugated edge.
Now, Ian, if you want to grab those two corners,
Okay.
we're going to keep it as unrolled as possible. It's very humid today.
Yeah.
And we'll walk over here to the tank. Now I'll let you lay your end right down in the middle of the water. And we'll float it on down. And you can let go. Get our timer. There's a couple of critical things. We got to be real mindful of our time and our temperature. The water in this tank, and it is just water, it's plain ordinary water, is temperature controlled though within a degree plus or minus. Any variation in that will cause drastic changes in the way the pattern comes out. So for consistency's sake, we have to keep right on it.
Okay.
I'm going to bring my part over that we've already attached to our handy little jig, as you can see. We're high tech.
Very. Hey, you use what works.
And I do have a little air bubble in here, I see. I'm going to make sure I get that out, otherwise we're going to wind up with a bubble in our pattern. Now in a few seconds when this timer goes off, we're going to spray that solvent we talked about. That's going to re-liquefy the film. And if you get a nice close shot there, you'll see the film actually liquefy. You might be able to see it in the glare. About 5 seconds. All right, here we go. Watch close because it doesn't take long.
Yeah, it's juicy.
Now you see how it's gone from a solid film floating on there to a liquid?
Yep.
You can see.
Oh, cool.
So we'll take our part and we'll go. This is wanting to float on me. There we go. And now we have a wood grain M16 buttstock.
Very nice.
We'll take it over and rinse off all that extra PVA. There we go. Wooden stock. As you can see, it wraps all the way around. Now there's always going to be a seam, and there's always going to be occasionally some little imperfections. Like here you can see there's a couple little tiny air bubbles right there where it first entered the water. We'll go in and we'll touch those up with the airbrush before we do the top coat. And once it's done, you'll never even see them or know that they're there.
Right, and they'll be under the top coat, so they'll be just as durable.
It's exactly as durable as everything else, absolutely.
Well, that was really cool. In fact, I think we have a gun or two that we're going to go ahead and send you because we want some of that.
And you know, we don't do just firearms. We've
Right.
got basically any rigid surface. We can do everything from guitars to motorcycle parts, you know, knives.
Metal, plastic, fiberglass, the works.
Does not
right?
matter. Yep.
Right. And you had mentioned you might be willing to do a deal for readers of the website.
Absolutely. For anybody that calls in or emails us and mentions either Forgotten Weapons or GunLab, we're going to give you an automatic 10% off your order.
We really appreciate it. I think some of our readers would really enjoy having some
Absolutely.
of this cool
I mean, I
stuff,
told
too.
you before, we're big fans of you guys and what you're doing too. So
Thank you. No. So, Scott, I'd like to thank you a lot for
My
taking
pleasure.
the time. We had a ball down here, and yeah, we'll definitely be playing with some of your stuff in the future, I'm sure.
sounds great. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Ian.
Hey, thanks for watching, guys. Tune in again to GunLab and Forgotten Weapons as well for more information on firearms manufacture and production.